I'm shocked that the Democrats would deal in this way with the president. Of course they did. Hey, no one should be surprised by this. And it's also true that I think now people are wondering, okay, what kind of deal is he going to do on immigration? I didn't hear him talking about a wall. I happen to think, you and I have had this conversation. I think massive border security doesn't necessarily include a 3,000-mile wall. But that's not what he said. And that's not what his supporters think they heard from him, and a result he promised to deliver to them. And so I'm not at all surprised that the Democrats are trying to use this moment to their maximum advantage. And President Trump, as a deal maker, should understand that as he walks into more and more deals with the Democrats, do not give them more leverage than they already have. They have massive leverage on DACA because it is an emotional issue that tugs at people's heartstrings. And they will use that leverage to the maximum extent.
You're listening to The Devil's Advocate, where we talk about news and current events. I'm your host, Brandon Condict.
And I'm also your host, Mitchell Hernandez. Our goal at The Devil's Advocate is to provoke thought by introducing viewpoints and information that isn't readily available in the mainstream media.
It's in truth a conversation where an independent liberal, like myself,
and an independent conservative, like myself, can share different viewpoints without the typical disdain for one another we see all too often in politics. So with that, let's get started.
The FCC Chairman Ajit Pai is following through on his plan to repeal these government regulations that were put back into place. The rules known as net neutrality prevent internet service providers such as Comcast, AT&T, Verizon from favoring their own digital services and slowing down those of the rivals. I know it sounds really complicated, but I promise he's going to make it easy for you. Ajit Pai believes that these rules are discouraging basically investment in new networks, and being able to provide faster online access in remote locations is pretty important stuff right now. He joins me now, and Ajit, congrats. This is what you wanted to do.
Well, thanks, and it's great to be with you again, Trish.
I'm looking at the word net neutrality on our screen right now, and I'm sure people are sort of glazing over. Explain what that is, because you, I think, do this better than anyone, sir.
Well, thanks. It involves a basic concept of how the internet is governed. Do you want it to be governed by engineers and entrepreneurs, or do you want it to be run by bureaucrats and lawyers here in Washington? Starting in the Clinton administration, there was a consensus on light touch regulation. We would let the market, as opposed to micromanaging regulators, decide how it was governed. That changed in 2015 under the Obama administration. Mm-hmm. And all I've proposed to do is simply return to that bipartisan consensus that served us so well for 20 years in favor of the market.
So President Obama and his team didn't want to see the market at work?
Essentially, yes. Yeah, after the 2014 elections, he instructed the FCC to adopt these heavy-handed common carrier regulations that were developed in the Great Depression to tame Ma Bell, the telephone monopoly, and they applied it to this very dynamic marketplace. Thousands of internet service providers were now under the sledgehammer of so-called Title II regulation.
All right, and we are back. Thanksgiving week.
Oh, yeah.
And as promised, we got a couple of friends of the show. Frank is back for the third or fourth time now. And friend of the show, Dan, finally made it by.
Hello.
Dude, why'd you keep dodging us and shit? It's like, it's just like, man.
Well, I'll do my best to stay away from you guys.
So as a result of the holiday and the fact that we're just sometimes lazy, not a ton of huge shit happened this week either. Nothing that jumps off the
newsworthy or...
That's what I'm thankful for.
Right. So I guess we're gonna go ahead and do another episode, kind of like we did a few weeks ago, where we just kind of jumble this up and as a split up a rest of the week segment, kind of talk about some smaller stories. Make fun of some shit, you know how we do.
Form.
You know how we do,
sort of thing
here at the DAP.
That's right.
So I guess let's get started with government shutdown. Pending, maybe.
Yeah, it's coming up. So for people who don't know, it looks like the government could shut down again. Let's see. I got an article here coming from Vox, a Tara Golshin, and she writes, "Don't look now, but it's becoming a real possibility that the government will shut down in December. Congress has until midnight on December 8th to pass a spending bill or the federal government will run out of money. The tricky thing is that Republicans need at least 8 Democrats in the Senate to meet the 60-vote threshold needed to pass the bill, which means that they'll need to do some serious compromising to get a spending bill through. The shutdown dance is a familiar one. It looked possible as recently as this past April, but it's still too early to evaluate the state of the negotiations. But this year, Donald Trump has really complicated Congress's job and basically pissed everybody off.
Shocker.
I know. Once Obamacare repeal failed, the only major item on Republicans' agenda for the rest of the year was supposed to be tax reform. But then Trump announced his administration plan to sunset the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, putting upward of 600,000 unauthorized immigrants in limbo.
And that's DACA,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. A move that will increase premiums for, and that's what the Democrats, I think, are really wanting to pass. A move that will increase premiums for Americans and dig a deeper hole into the national deficit. Trump is forcing Congress's hand to act, but he hasn't given a clear or realistic policy directive on immigration or health care. So that's basically where it's at. Is they're going to have to get a new spending bill passed, and apparently they can't just get rid of the two-thirds majority and do a simple majority. They're going to have Democrats on board with it.
Because checks and balances.
Well, they're seeming like Democrats are going to make this an issue now, that they're either going to fix DACA or they're
well, it was always
always
an issue in what they wanted to
this
do.
was like when we talked about a couple months ago about Trump.
Chuck Schumer the keys.
Yeah, he handed him the kees.
That's what we're seeing.
Now they've got the Republicans by the balls.
Believe it or not, 4 months passes.
Right.
And the bill comes due.
Yeah. So what do you think happens if there is there won't be a government shutdown?
There could be a government shutdown. It's happened before.
It has.
Yeah.
Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz.
But
He didn't get his way.
So let's say that there is.
Yeah.
Who takes the blame?
Well, obviously they're both to blame. If you're asking who the media is going to assign the blame to, I think that's a simple one.
Yeah.
But like, does it matter who gets the blame?
Yeah.
Like, why is it shutting down again?
No,
we
I
already
agree.
saw what happened last time with the, people that were, what were they, furloughed for how long? A month and a half or something like that?
Right.
Where they're just like, just show up and don't expect paychecks, but you got to do it or you're fired. Not a great plan.
No.
Yeah.
No,
No.
it's not.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree with you. I don't think that. Yeah, I don't think that it means.
Where's the scoreboard? Let's keep track here.
I think that that's definitely the bigger issue. Is like, why have we gotten ourselves? But the simple answer is politics.
Everything's fucked.
Yeah, politics is how we got
That's
here.
shorthand.
Where the blame does matter is going into an election. And
Well, the media is going to say that it's Trump's fault.
right. The article that I had pulled up, the first sentence of it was like, Republicans are in an awkward position. Stop being dicks, or
Right.
So, but I don't know. I think it's unfortunate that we're looking at this again.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different now. I mean, the thing that Ted Cruz wanted to get rid of was Obamacare. So he was like, you need to get rid of Obamacare or we're shutting the government down. Well, of course they're not going to do that, especially because the data wasn't in yet on whether it was a success or a failure. And, this is a bit different. I feel like Republicans can live with DACA. Almost everyone has come out. I think it had 65% public support or something like that, even from Republicans.
Yeah.
The only one who really gives a shit about this is the forever Trumpers.
Even Mitch McConnell even said that they would be willing to settle on DACA if they could get support for the wall or even tougher immigration rules.
Exactly. So I can't imagine. This isn't something I feel they shouldn't be able to compromise on.
It's the 37% that they're worried about.
Yeah.
It's the 37% that Trump is worried about, and that 37% isn't Mitt Romney's.
Well, I think Trump is just
37%.
Trump.
It's Trump's base.
I don't think he gives two shits who he might be offending or whatnot. I think that he just has his own opinion.
I think he's absolutely worried.
He
He's
doesn't
worried
like this.
about that percentage of people. He's worried about his base.
Yeah.
He doesn't disavow people in Charlottesville unless he applies.
I think
shit
that's just what
equally.
he thinks. I think that he really thought that it wasn't.
I do, in the same thing. I do think he's a vain man, though, and he thinks that he has to have people that like him. You clearly see that he loves being up on
wants to
stage
be
with
liked.
his fans
Vain.
around.
No way.
He
Not the guy who in the last episode said I should have left those kids in jail in China. Not him. he couldn't be vain. Yeah, I don't know. Did you see too? Right after we shot that segment, the next morning I woke up and I think it was the day before Thanksgiving, and at like 6 a.m. he tweeted that LeVar Ball was like the poor man's Don King without the hair. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
He's a
Classy
nickname for
guy.
everybody. I just
Yeah,
wait
he
for it
does.
every time he has a conflict.
Yeah, he does. So, yeah, I don't know, but that.
Again, something that should be very easy to get a compromise on, and something that I don't know what we get out of it, because I'm assuming, well, I guess we want the spending bill passed as Republicans, but still, I feel like they need to get something out of it also.
But aren't the Democrats going to just keep doing this?
Yeah.
Like, isn't it with anything that they need bipartisan support
But I gotta
on?
say this about Chuck Schumer: I can't stand him, and I think he's dramatic. But I do think that when he comes to the table, he legitimately does come to the table and is like, "This is all we want. Make us happy here, and we'll help you. We'll give you what you want." And then
Yeah.
just have been unable to. The Republicans don't stand together on anything, so they haven't been able to bring it to them.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, because you have there's so, like, we've talked about it over the weeks.
Brian Chuck.
But no, just the factions of the Republican Party. It's
Yeah,
so
it's
easy
not
when
good.
you put it to an individual person. It's easier to see. You've got like your John Kasich Republicans and your
Yeah.
Donald Trump Republicans and your Ted Cruz Republicans, and
Mayor Marco Rubio's the new wave.
that's
new GOP.
why. But that dynamic. And the fact that Donald Trump is really good at pissing off the people that are supposed to be on his side allows the Democrats to put themselves in a position to be like, well,
Well,
all right, pass this, and sure, like,
Yeah.
we'll play ball, but not
Yeah, I
until
don't-
you give us what we want.
I don't mind that there's so many factions within the Republican Party, because I think that's healthy for a party. It just sucks because there's not as many Republicans. So if we had like 75 senators, then that'd be okay, because then I feel like only the really good ideas would have enough of the factions on board. But they've got like 52.
Yeah, it's hard
Yeah.
to call it a majority because
it's
it
just
barely
like,
is.
Yeah, it doesn't really work out that way.
No, it
Especially when you end up needing 2/3 vote. Like, it doesn't.
Yeah, and the Democrats it'd be different if they had factions as well.
Yeah, and they
then
don't.
They're
They're
solidified
a little bit, but they're way more solidified in most
I do
issues.
think, though, that over the next 2 election cycles, you're going to see the same thing happen to the Democrats.
Well, they're gonna go.
I think they're going to start breaking off.
gangbusters.
No, I think they're going to start breaking off from each other because, like, there are people like me who would identify with that party more so on from a political standpoint, but I'm not going to call myself a member of the Bernie party. Like, I'm not a Bernie, but I'm also
Bernie.
not a Hillary Clinton liberal either. If if you put me on that side.
We referenced a study about millennials supporting socialism so much. Like, I think there's a growing schism in Democrats who are like Democrats in name only, but they have some very wild liberal ideas.
Yeah, yes, there are. So, and we'll see if that actually goes up. Right now, they have their central establishment that is like, we like Nancy Pelosi. There's been like a few coups that have tried to take place within the party to kick Nancy Pelosi out, but they fail.
Which is ridiculous. I don't know why
she brings in the money.
Yeah,
I think she's, if not the most, the top campaigner that brings in money. Like, she's got to be up there. She brings in so much money. They just suck at spending it, and it's also not effective for them. Like I said, they're spending more money than anyone else, and they're not getting any results. I think Congress has the least amount of Democrats in it ever.
They don't have a fucking message. They've never had a mess. Well, for the last several years.
Yo soy Tim Kaine.
Like, yeah, they don't.
What are you doing, guy?
They don't have a message. When I look at the Democrats, at least in the most recent example, you had the Bernie people, and then we'll just say
message.
the ideas of Bernie, and then the ideas of Hillary Clinton. And it was like, well, I don't like either of those. Like, I don't like Donald Trump's ideas either.
Yeah,
but I don't like either of the two options I have. So
here's the thing: I think that Republicans have really had going for them, and where Democrats have shot themselves in the foot, is branding of their messages as well and getting it out. Like the last election cycle, the DNC tried to suppress their own messages. They tried to only have 4 debates, total. So
only
you're not showing people what you
at
have.
like 6 a.m. on Sunday.
Yeah,
yeah.
like when no one would be watching. Whereas the Republicans had 17 candidates and was running dual debates, as many as they could get, And then the 2012,
which
they
in
had like
itself
26
should
debates.
have been a recipe for disaster, and you could argue it was. I mean, we got Donald Trump.
Entertaining as hell, though.
So no, but you know what I mean. Like
I know what you
Donald
mean.
Trump in 2000, when we wrote the song, whenever that election was, Mitt Romney year, like
2012.
Donald Trump wouldn't have been the thing that helped us. Like we knew it was going to be Romney from the beginning of that cycle,
Yeah.
and we knew because of the way that they set up the system. They have 17 people, so people are going to win states on a margin of like 18%.
Yeah.
And so Mitt
But they'll
Romney's
still get
clearly
it.
the most likable at that time.
Yeah.
But
We
I
thought
think
the
it
same
kind of
with Jeb
worked
Bush.
adversely with Donald Trump. It was
We came in. I was like, yeah, it's going to be Bush and it's going to be Clinton. Everyone thought that. And then
yeah. And at a point, I thought it would be Rubio, and at a point, I hoped it would be
I think Chris
Rubio.
Christie happened.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
it's so
fat
terrible.
sack of shit.
He was gonna
I believe he has the
crush
lowest
that podium.
approval rating of any politician in modern history.
Yeah, it's not good.
Dude,
It's like
Beachgate,
13%. It is
Beachgate is
low.
what did it. Like, I mean, he was already.
Yeah.
Well, it isn't
it already
what
wasn't
did
good.
it. But
I like to refer to that as the beach whale period. Because that's what it reminded me of.
yeah,
Oh man.
just run for governor, and then you can have a private beach. And then when I tell all the taxpayers to stay off of it, it doesn't apply to me. I'm the governor. Fuck you, dude.
Right. So we went off on a tangent there on the
It's
government.
okay. It's Thanksgiving. We should.
But yeah, we could sum up the whole.
When was the last
Government
government
shutdown.
shutdown?
Yeah, I think it was Ted Cruz, 2014
14 or 15?
Yeah.
Was it really that recent? Okay.
Or maybe it was early. It was before Mike
Damn, it
Brown,
wasn't-
wasn't it? In 2014? So it was probably 2000.
10? I don't know.
Maybe
No.
it was
I'll have to look it up.
No, because I remember.
11 or 12. I don't know. We can look it up.
Yeah, I think it was more like 14.
You just said every year.
Every year.
So
And
one of
it was
these
one of the
years.
years.
It's sometime
Shotgun
between
shot.
2008 and 16. I know that. It falls in there somewhere. Probably post 2010 when he got elected.
2013.
Yeah.
See, I knew it.
Definitely
That was the
was.
one.
A little over 2 weeks last time it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that too because I had friends who had just moved up to DC and were working, and everything shut down. And they were like, "Well, this is great. I'm glad I'm interning here." So
Furloughs all around. Yeah, again, this is a real possibility. I hope it doesn't happen. There's no fucking reason for it to happen.
no,
because this
I
is an
doubt it
easy
will
fix.
happen. I think I agree
You
with
really
you.
think though? Like I don't doubt Congress is.
Yeah, I know. Like
You know,
the
how
last
shitty they
time,
can be.
the last time they said the government was going to shut down, everybody's like, "No, it's not going to happen.
No,
No,
here's
they
what I
won't
think,
let
though.
that happen."
No, I think that you have to look at it from like the reason it's being shut down, right? We have to look at the cause and effect of each individual scenario, and I think
Right.
that Obamacare, like Ted Cruz being a dick, and first of all, there was
Rand Paul
there were-
too. They were in cahoots
yeah,
together.
I think there were a few elements that kind of went into play there. The fact that the Tea Party had just gotten elected a couple years before and said that they were going to shut down the government and then had an opportunity to do it over
Right.
something that they vehemently opposed, like that is different from the popularity of DACA
Right.
and its acceptance on both sides.
Particularly
I just
when
don't
you-
think in this instance that we're going to see a shutdown over this.
I don't know.
wouldn't doubt
When you take into account that the Democrats know that Trump's going to get most of the media blame for it, like they have
Yeah.
they almost have every reason to try to shut it down
Yeah,
until
that-
they get their way.
But they need to learn.
Yeah,
It didn't
but
work
they
for the
can-
election. He had like 90% negative coverage.
It
and
also
this
didn't
help.
work for the
Yeah.
Tea Party. Like, as soon as the government shutdown happened, they took all of the blame for it, and you saw people start people that, like, you remember Eric Cantor was part of, Paul Ryan was part of the Tea Party movement, and
Yeah.
now you look at Paul Ryan, you're like, you're the most establishment
Establishment.
guy, because they stepped away from that shit. Like, those guys, the only people that really hung on to it, even Ted Cruz is stepping away from it now, because he wants to run for president again.
And you fucking realize that evangelicals, when evangelicals aren't voting for you, rebrand. You've missed your message at some point.
Right.
not
So
good.
I just think, I don't know. I don't think over DACA. I don't think the Democrats are. The election is far enough away right now that Democrats can get hurt from this. And I think that it's what. I think that. Fuck, we just talked about Roy Moore on the last episode, and I think they may have, this shit might have come out too early. If this had come out a week before the election, it would have killed him. But
Yeah.
I think Roy Moore, I agree with you on the last episode.
Yeah.
I think that he might win.
he
And
might.
if he does, and if he doesn't, fuck you, Alabama. I rescind my offer of making peace with you. So
Again, I just think it goes down to, do people want to vote for their interests? And if they think,
if they think pedophilia is in their interest,
obviously that's not in your interest, but 30 years of public service, if they don't like the Democrats' options,
they
they're gonna
kept
pick the
electing a
Republican.
pedophile.
I know, I'm just saying.
That's a fair asterisk to put
Yeah.
next to
Well,
his
I think
name.
they
We can
just
look at
stopped
him and-
like the field trips and stuff to his office.
Yeah.
Let's just shut that down.
That's too soon, man.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. We'll fix it in
We'll
post.
assess it after this point.
Don't you tell me what to do, bro. Yeah. So,
I still think that I'm never going to fault anyone for voting for their interest. If they think that Roy Moore is going to do a better job than the Democrat, regardless of how they personally feel about them, if they want to vote for him, I don't get it. But I'm not going to be like, fuck all these guys for voting for their own interest. I can't go there.
I'll be that guy. I'm okay with that.
All right.
So, all right, let's move on to this this next little story here. So I guess net neutrality is back in the news. Oh wow, we all peaked all over that.
Am I peeking?
I haven't even begun to peak, bro.
Begun to peek.
So we'll get into this article from The Hill on the FCC's plan to end net neutrality. I know for all of us, it's not a huge.
I wouldn't say it's my issue.
It's not my passion.
That's something I worry about because I yeah, I use the internet liberally. I'm not going to admit to anything, but yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So-
I'm with you.
Yeah, because we've all been down that road on the show before.
Right.
Like, did he
he? What?
evasion? What just happened? Okay, so I'm gonna read this, and then we'll go ahead and kind of throw our own shade at it.
Do it.
So this article is from The Hill. It is titled "Maine Lawmakers Denounce FCC Plan to End Net Neutrality" by John Bowden. 3 members of Maine's 4-member congressional delegation said Friday that they oppose efforts led by the Federal Communications Commission (FCC) chairman, not going to try his name, to undo net neutrality rules put in place under the Obama administration. Maine senators Susan Collins and
Of course, Susan Collins.
Angus King, as well as Representative Shelley Pingree, told that's a Republican, an Independent, and a Democrat in that order, told Bangor Daily News on Friday that they would oppose the FCC's moves ahead of the vote next month. The internet is a vital part of 21st century life and critical driver of modern economy, King said in a statement. The proposed repeal of net neutrality threatens those advancements by putting speed and availability of information up for sale to the highest bidder. Internet providers must not manage their system in an anti-competitive way that limits consumers' choices, said a spokeswoman for Collins in a statement. Pingree called the proposal in a statement to the Daily News that Pye's decision was plain wrong and said that it could create fast and slow lanes based on who can afford it. Maine's other congressman, Representative Bruce Poliquin, Republican, didn't respond to requests from the Daily News, but has voted in favor of ending the Obama-era rules in the past. Net neutrality rules passed by the FCC in 2015 prohibit internet service providers from providing faster service to companies that agree to pay more, which proponents say stop large companies from throttling internet traffic to smaller competitors. Pye announced this week that the FCC would vote to overturn those rules in December. Under my proposal, the federal government will stop micromanaging the internet, Pye said in a statement. Instead, the FCC would simply require the internet service providers to be transparent about their practices so that consumers can buy the service plan that's best for them.
But the problem with that, which you were pointing out, is that there are only usually one option in your area.
Yeah.
If you live in an apartment, sometimes you have to get a certain provider.
Right,
You live
yeah,
in certain
I know-
areas, sometimes only one provider is there.
Yeah, in my dad's neighborhood where he lives, he can not AT&T like services the cross street that like runs through his street, but they will not they do not service the rest of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And then like Charter I think Charter services the whole thing, but DirecTV and Dish are only in certain sections. I know in my neighborhood there are specific streets where if you drive down, everybody has Dish. And then another street, everybody has DirecTV, and AT&T doesn't service out here at all.
It comes about more where your satellites are and where they cover, how many you have up there, than anything else, unless you're cable, and then it depends on where all your routes. So,
but also it would be like, well, Amazon would have an unfair advantage because obviously they could buy the fastest speeds to online shopping and try to kill smaller competitors.
About Amazon though, that's only if like Google will let them. Amazon's like expanding in sort of the meta internet, whereas Google is laying like
they're trying
fiber optics. They're gonna own everything that Amazon's gonna need.
That's why I'm just worried about this, because I do think we need like that. You shouldn't be able to cherry pick. Even being transparent, I don't think that's going to solve the problem.
Yeah. I just think his reasoning is wrong. It's just like he looks at it as if services and internet providers are a free market, and they're really not. I mean, it's completely limited.
Yeah.
So I get the idea of the free market. I love it. I'm a Republican, and that's kind of my bread and butter. But this isn't the free market.
And it's still in its infancy. People don't realize that there are still areas where there are dead zones where you don't get service.
You don't get anything.
Yeah,
and it's just like
that's also like we're trying to figure out how to pioneer this new front, if you will. Like we're trying to establish rules. Like this is capitalism, right? If you're going to pay me more money, you're going to get something better.
Yep. It's running amok.
So
I don't know. Not a good thing to overturn.
This isn't the first time they've tried this. I mean, they try this every 3 months or so.
Yeah, there seems to be less upheaval by like millennials about this.
I think they don't get it. I really do.
Yeah.
I think that most people just don't really understand. They're socialists. They don't like capitalism.
I honestly think
they don't know how it works.
I think that it seems like an idea that's harder to. Because I didn't know before I read that, I was like, I really don't know what I'm about to read, and as soon as I read it, I was like, well, that makes sense. I think it's something. Net neutrality sounds like something that's more complicated than it is.
Yeah, because it doesn't describe it within the thing. It's just like neutrality. What are you talking about?
Right.
Yeah.
Who's neutral?
So now that's not to say that it's not. I mean, you have to. I think the way that you described it by service providers is an easier way to grasp it than just like, oh, well, what do you mean you're selling the internet? But that I mean, that's not
that's basically what they're doing. It's like, hey, I've got internet. You want some internet? Yeah, you gotta fucking pay me.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think that's kind of a slippery slope, though, right? Because you pay whatever now, but if you want something a little bit better, pay more, and then it's like, oh. In 3 months, your rates have gone up because
what's the same
more
with the
people
internet?
want it.
If they did, basically, I'm pretty sure they've classified the internet as a utility now.
I think that's accurate.
I believe so.
We'll
that almost is a basic human
it
right
should
at this
be.
point.
I'm pretty sure that they've already ruled that. It'd be the same as
thanks, Al Gore.
Ameren or another electric company. Who's
Add that amendment.
Like your rates are lower, but you got to pay for this premium and whatnot. Like people have certain energy that they can tap into, and that's it. Like I got Ameren. And that's basically the only option.
Yeah, I live in an apartment where I have one option if I want internet. That's I don't know if they have a contract with my apartment.
I didn't realize that those companies like Ameren does electric and gas, but they don't service they don't do gas in our area. In St. Louis, it's was Lecleat or Spire now.
Yeah, I have the same problem.
It'd be the same thing as them going up and just being like, all right, we want lower prices
instead of one.
Yeah.
Right.
Get into this whole thing.
Yeah, because I asked her at Ameren, and she was like, "Yeah, we service it, but she was like, but just outside of your area. We're like in Illinois and stuff."
She's like, "You're already coming to give me electricity. Just gas me up, gas it up,
just gas it. I know you got all that spare gas over there." So,
again, it's not really my issue, but
no,
I'm against it. I'm against them limiting it.
Off topic, what is with them rebranded? Why is it Spire now? Why did what's the other one that rebranded massively recently?
Is that what Spire is? Because I keep seeing Spire everywhere.
Lecleat became Spire.
That's funny.
And then it happened with oh damn it, it's not Charter anymore. What is it now? Spectrum.
Spectrum.
They're going by. After they fuck up and have enough settlements, they're like, all right, we're just
Let's
rechanging the name.
Yeah, it's like
Hey,
all
Better
of
Business
those
Bureau.
every 1-800 number you see on TV. It's like, hey, you want a car warranty that nobody actually asked you about when you bought the car? Come talk to us.
There we go.
We're going to change our name in 3 months, and we're not going to honor any of your claims because
Yep.
that company doesn't exist.
We work for a couple companies that did that.
Yeah, we've worked for a couple. We're like, wait a minute. Why, when I search the name of the other company on Google, is it non-existent? When I search it outside, I can find articles. When I search it in here, it's like Fidelis never even existed.
Well, that's net neutrality, I think.
Right.
That's what we're writing against.
I'm not for
Get it.
anything that's going to slow down my porn speed. Like,
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like, so
Now, if I can
That's how you know
fee.
it's gonna fail, because when you're going against the porn industry,
Yeah, you're
they
gonna
just got
lose.
way too much money.
No.
Right.
That's why we have the internet now.
does the porn industry have money? Why does the porn industry have money?
Advertisements.
Who is paying for porn in
Fleshlight.
2017?
Well, no, but you charge advertisers for viewers, and they have a lot
Yeah.
of viewers every.
Hell of you.
Porn economics. We break it all
Yeah.
down on at the DAP. Try to throw
That
that one in
TDAP.
there. TDAP.
We begin this morning with the aftermath of the terror attack at a crowded mosque in Egypt that left at least 305 worshippers dead and 128 injured. Friday's assault was in the northern part of the troubled Sinai Peninsula.
So far, no group has claimed responsibility for the attack. Charlie D'Agata is following developments from our London bureau, and he has the latest. Charlie, good morning.
Good morning. Egypt's president vowed to respond to the massacre with an iron fist, and within hours, jets were scrambled, launching airstrikes targeting the militants behind the worst terrorist attack in that country's recent history.
CBS News has learned that members of the House Intelligence Committee want to subpoena Twitter to obtain messages between Donald Trump Jr. and WikiLeaks. The president's oldest son released screenshots Monday of what he says are all of his private messages with WikiLeaks. They go back to September of 2016. Jeff Pegues is in Washington with new details of the House investigation. Jeff, good morning.
Good morning. A source familiar with the investigation says committee members are considering the subpoena because they don't know if they've been given the full picture of the discussions between the president's son and WikiLeaks. The source says there is also interest now in questioning people Donald Trump Jr. told about his contacts with WikiLeaks. On Thursday, the Senate Judiciary Committee sent a letter to Jared Kushner's attorney saying that he withheld information. They are asking for emails Kushner sent and received about WikiLeaks in September of 2016. They also want documents about a, quote, Russian backdoor overture and dinner invite. Meanwhile, Soviet-born businessman Ike Keveladze and his lawyer spent more than 2 hours inside the office of Special Counsel Robert Mueller yesterday. Keveladze was in the June 2016 meeting at Trump Tower with Kushner and Donald Trump Jr. when they met with that Russian lawyer who claimed that she had damaging information about Hillary Clinton. The meeting has become an important focus for investigators.
Well, U.S. President Donald Trump is not one to typically shy away from accolades, but he's very publicly saying no thanks to Time Magazine's Person of the Year award. He tweeted that he's taking a pass because he was told he would only probably take home the honor again. And in his words, probably is no good. But Time Magazine disputes all of that, tweeting that the president is incorrect about how the recipient is chosen. Its chief content officer pushed back even more forcefully, writing that there wasn't a speck of truth to the president's claim.
All right, now let's get into the rest of the week. We'll just continue spitballing these smaller stories here, I guess. Well, I mean, it's all perspective. If you're from Egypt, this next story isn't a small one. But yeah, go ahead and read us that article.
So there was a terrorist attack in Egypt, and quite a few people ended up dying. So I'm going to read an article here by Jane Oyanga-O'Mara from USA Today. And it says, suspected militants attacked a crowded mosque during a Friday sermon in Egypt's Sinai Peninsula, setting off bombs, opening fire on worshippers, and killing at least 235, and the deadliest ever attack on Egyptian civilians by Islamic militants. Some 130 people were also wounded, according to the news agency. The local Islamic State affiliate, Sinai Province, appeared to be responsible for the gruesome incident, and the first attack on a large mosque since the militants began their terror campaign in 2013. So, let's see here. So that's basically what happened. Now, Trump did tweet out, horrible and cowardly terrorist attack on innocent and defenseless worshippers in Egypt. The world cannot tolerate terrorism. We must defeat them militarily and discredit their extremist ideology that forms the basis of their existence. So, I guess a lot of people had the question, why would Islamic terrorists attack a mosque? And I guess there's like a different sect of Islam that's more mystical, I guess, and it's
They believe in dragons.
I don't know if they go full dragon, but I think that I guess that's
Never
viewed
go full
as
dragon.
a form of being an infidel, to more popular and more sexy.
It's the whole like ISIS idea, right? Like ISIS was
you believe what we believe, or
we're
take
gonna
you out.
cut your head off,
Yeah,
or crucify you, or something.
right. Yeah, you know what keeps up with Africa? That's not new at all. Like, it's obviously the most deadly, but yeah, Africa has way more terrorism than.
Well, and they have like, who's their leader right now? Do you know?
The leader of Africa?
No, the leader of Egypt, where this happened. No,
I don't know the name of the guy.
I know that it's very authoritarian.
It's Abdel Fattah el-Sisi.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. If I'm
I also
pronouncing it
have
right,
the.
probably not.
I also have the. That
Yep.
looked right to me. I also have the death count as of 2 hours ago at 305, with
Yeah.
another 128 people injured.
I mean,
Wow.
some of the injured
Yeah.
probably died as well then. So
Um,
yeah, it's definitely not good.
I mean, it's a very coordinated attack. If they were bombing
Yeah.
and
Well,
shooting and
They
It's
said
easier
what,
there 'cause-
5 SUVs pulled up, and
Yeah.
between
Yeah.
25 and 30 people got out.
and who were? Did it name a group?
The Sinai province.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so a sect of Islamic extremists. Obviously ISIS affiliated, but
Yeah, well, I thought they said one of them had an ISIS flag.
yeah,
Did they? Yeah. So,
par for the course.
yeah, and
blowing up cars, leaving burning wrecks, blocking the roads to prevent escape.
it's
Yep.
not unreasonable to think
Sounds
that.
like a bunch of teens just having fun. I mean, it's a different sort of
It's a different area.
different
It's a different
area.
sort of, yeah.
We used to get in some trouble.
So I think that it's not unreasonable to think, though, that we'll probably see this a little bit more
Like I said, they're seeing it
with
every day.
especially with ISIS being.
Yeah, this is just the first one that they really reported on. Because, like I said, I mean, there's probably there's over 1,000 terrorist attacks in the whole upper coast of Africa.
There's a terrorist attack there as often as there's a mass shooting here.
Clearly, it's higher for the terrorist attacks.
I don't
but
know, 1,600 and 1,700 days on mass shootings in
if you're
America.
using the 3 people injured plus statistic, then yeah, it's about par.
Right.
It's about on par there. But
Is that what they consider a terrorist attack? At least 3 people have to be
No,
injured?
that's
It's
what
a
a
mass
mass
shooting.
shooting.
Mass
Mass
shooting.
shooting.
Yeah.
yeah, so handguns can be included if you kill more than 3 people. Or I think injured it's attempted. But
Yeah, I think so too.
yeah. Regardless, this stuff is happening constantly over there, which is kind of interesting why this is the one that everyone picked up on.
Well,
this isn't new.
I mean, but it's the biggest. Like,
It's
that's a
definitely
lot
like
of
a
pieces.
large
But to be honest-
amount.
This
Yeah.
is different than driving a
be honest,
truck
though-
down a sidewalk.
Well, they don't just do that. I mean, these are connected by land to the terrorist training facilities, so there's just a high abundance
Well,
of
and
these
this,
groups out there.
yeah, and this seemed like a super coordinated attack.
It'd be easy.
Like,
On
these were
worshippers
like
too. Like when was the last time
pretty-
a group praying together got targeted
Yeah.
like with this much?
Well,
body
actually,
count?
in Egypt, especially Christians, all the time, Christians are getting killed.
But I mean, this many numbers though, like 300 at
No,
once.
usually-
like, I
well,
think
there's
that's
not as
still-
many
Well, I'd say
Christians,
that's
you know.
par for
Yeah,
the
there's not as
course,
many
though.
Christians in Egypt
Yeah.
than there are we got Muslims. But yeah, at least 4 times this year, I've heard of at least 50 plus being killed in church in Egypt. So Egypt's they're not going through a good thing. Mohammed Morsi was part of the Muslim Brotherhood. He was ousted.
Right.
That's
and
when
then
it started,
took
wasn't it? Like
over.
2013, yeah, when they asked.
Assisi was the guy who was responsible for. You remember when Jon Stewart went and made that movie?
Rosewater?
Yeah,
yeah,
which was
maybe.
about. It wasn't
that was
about,
Iran.
Was it Iran?
Yeah.
But it was about a story who's the Egyptian Jon Stewart? I know we've seen him and we've talked about him before.
The guy from The Onion.
This is a guy who has basically a show or had a show like the Daily
Onion.
Show in Egypt, who now lives in Cleveland because Assisi got elected and they're throwing people in jail.
Yeah.
So
it's nothing new. Like I said, I mean, we're going to keep seeing throughout that whole region until you get rid of the ideology, which isn't going to happen.
Right.
So what you're saying is there is no end to this.
Well, not in the foreseeable future.
I don't think you have to get rid of the ideology. I think you have to learn I think you have to learn tolerance. You can be an extreme Catholic and not go around and kill a bunch of people.
Yeah, I mean that's probably the what we should be using as an example is like when did Christians like become calm and
I read a really
extremist.
good article. I can't remember the name of the guy, but he's a prominent Muslim writer, and he was basically begging white American culture to let Islam have its reformation. They were like, anytime people want to criticize Islam, they get attacked. And he said, you need to let us, just like Christianity had their reformation, we need to have ours because we don't live in this part anymore, and we're changing, and the whole religion's changing.
It's just hard when civilizations are more advanced or at a different spot when we see them like where we were 100 or 200 years ago. And we want to intervene.
Islam kind of
I think
ruined
that. I think that's sort of the difference too. Is like these are still like tribal.
Yeah,
I'll do air quotes, but I know this is an audio medium, so air quotes are in
Everybody
there.
heard them. It's fine.
But
you
like
said it very air quotey.
It's sort of a very tribal. Like they're still like a leader of the village, not a mayor, not a.
Yeah, it's a culture that hasn't really been changed.
Right.
So like it hasn't been colonized for thousands of years. So
women
still
get
have
killed
their
for
areas.
driving cars.
Yeah.
I saw that woman's cheek. Let's throw acid on her.
And don't you dare dance the Macarena.
No, dude.
I know that's Saudi Arabia, but
it's Macarena. Come on.
I think that's the biggest insult, no matter what country you're in.
At that point, you're asking for.
That's a good point. I guess they had a reason to throw him in jail.
But no, I mean, even just looking at Iran and these other countries where back in the 60s, I mean, it looked like you were down on the California Strip.
Yeah, where it's just blue jeans and stuff.
Yeah, they weren't really that extreme.
Drastic change in 30, 40 years.
And it'd be like if real hardcore Christianity just took over all of the political landscape.
Well, I guess all the Muslim hipsters.
It'd be like if Mike
this
Pence
is what's
going to
happen to America.
Yeah. And Iran got rid of. They outlawed women going to university because they were doing so much better than the men. It was like 3-1.
It's like
that is a male
rate.
mentality. You're doing better than me. You're not allowed to do better.
Then they got rid of it.
I've said it before. I don't trust women who can speak well.
I'm just saying.
So, all right. Well, that's unfortunate, but
it is unfortunate.
There's that. Let's move forward now into another story from The Intercept, written by Robert McKay, about Julian Assange. Well, the article is titled "Julian Assange's hatred of Hillary Clinton was no secret. His advice to Donald Trump was." Where was the other? What was the other? The Atlantic.
The Atlantic has
also had a similar article. So this one was from Friday, November 17th. It says the revelation that WikiLeaks secretly offered help to Donald Trump's campaign in a series of private Twitter messages sent to the candidate's son, Donald Trump Jr., gave ammunition to the group's many detractors and also sparked anger from some longtime supporters of the organization and its founder, Julian Assange. One of the most high-profile dissenters was journalist Barrett Brown, whose crowdsourced investigation of hacked corporate documents later posted on WikiLeaks led to a prison sentence. Brown had a visceral reaction to the news first reported by The Atlantic that WikiLeaks had been advising the Trump campaign. In a series of tweets and Facebook videos, Brown accused Assange of having comprised the movement to expose corporate and government wrongdoing by acting as a covert political operative. Brown explained that he had defended WikiLeaks for releasing emails hacked from the Democratic National Committee because it was an appropriate thing for a transparency organization to do. But he added working with an authoritarian, obviously a bias there, would be a leader to deceive the public is indefensible and disgusting. He was particularly outraged by an October 21, 2016 message in which Assange had appealed to Trump Jr. to let WikiLeaks publish one or more of his father's tax returns in order to make his group's attacks on Hillary Clinton seem less biased. If we publish them, it will dramatically improve the perception of our impartiality, the Assange-controlled @WikiLeaks account suggested. That means that the vast amount of stuff that we are publishing on Clinton will have much higher impact because it won't be perceived as coming from a pro-Trump, pro-Russian source, which the Clinton campaign is constantly slandering us with. And
it's not really slander.
As Brown pointed,
that one.
Right.
You're kind of proving her point right here.
As Brown pointed out in another tweet, it was all caps exasperating that Assange was in this case complaining about slander of being pro-Trump in the actual course of collaborating with Trump.
It's kind of hilarious.
Yeah. The journalist and Intercept contributor whose work had been championed by WikiLeaks also shared a link to Reddit AMA conducted 2 days after the election, in which WikiLeaks staff, including Assange's longtime collaborator Sarah Harrison, had denied point blank that they had collaborated with the Trump campaign. The allegations that we have colluded with Trump or any other candidate for that matter, or with Russia, are just groundless and false, the staffers wrote then. We were not publishing with a goal to get any specific candidate elected. It is not surprising that Brown felt personally betrayed by Assange since as he explained on Facebook Tuesday night, I went to prison because of my support for WikiLeaks. Specifically, Brown said, the charges against him were related to his role in operations to identify and punish members of the government and members of private companies that had been exposed by anonymous hackers of my acquaintance via email hacks as having conspired to go after Assange. As having conspired to go after Assange to go after WikiLeaks. That sort of activism dedicated to making public secret wrongdoing, Brown argued, is very different from colluding with an authoritarian presidential campaign backed by actual Nazis while publicly denying it. God damn, if you didn't throw that shit in, like you have a case here. Plainly, he observed.
What do you think when you type that? Fucking actual
goddamn right. He observed with bitterness. That is an understatement.
Yeah, he observed with bitterness. The project of Clinton in the White House was such an unimaginable nightmare scenario that all normal standards of truth and morality became moot, and it became necessary to get people like Sebastian Gorka into the White House to establish order.
New World Order.
Burn. Gorka burn.
Yeah, fuck Gorka. Before his private messages to Trump were leaked, Assange himself had categorically denied that he or WikiLeaks had been attacking Hillary Clinton to help elect Donald Trump. This is not due to a personal desire to influence the outcome of the election, he wrote in a statement released on November 8th as Americans went to the poll. Even though Assange had by then transformed the WikiLeaks Twitter feed into a vehicle for smearing Clinton, he insisted that his work was journalistic in nature. The right to receive and impart true information is the guiding principle of WikiLeaks, an organization that has a staff and organizational mission far beyond myself, Assange wrote. Millions of Americans have pored over the leaks and passed on their citations to each other and to us, he added. It is an open model of journalism that gatekeepers are uncomfortable with, but which is perfectly harmonious with the First Amendment. The same morning, WikiLeaks tweeted an attack on Clinton for not having driven her own car during her decades of public service.
Nerve!
I think that's about enough of that.
I mean, I'm going to point, like, has Trump driven a car in however long? Like, no. What's your point?
So. And that is not what we should take away from that article. What we should take away from that article is that your side has some splaining to do.
Has some splaining? I don't know about that. Again, it looks like
Julian Assange is a fucking crook that worked solely for your side.
That's a very strong sentiment there, which I would
it is. I would
vehemently disagree with. What it looks like it is another case of cover up is worse than the crime. They didn't really.
Seems like the crime is pretty shitty
it's not
too.
A crime to not take someone's shit.
No,
it's
like when your wife is like, it's like when you sleep around on your wife, and then you're like, well, she didn't ask, so technically I'm not lying. You know?
Well, it's pretty shitty to claim to be a transparent.
That's
like,
what
freedom.
Yeah.
Like that's what pisses me off. Like,
it's not a crime, but
you're not transparent anymore.
Yeah,
you
lose your
lost all
credibility.
Yeah,
because you're supposed to be.
Which he didn't have.
Why don't you hack
credibility
him
to begin? Yeah.
Well, that's the way I get it.
Like, I understand. Like I understand
in
not
somebody's
Clinton.
mind.
If you don't like Clinton, that's fine. But like, I don't understand how you could think that like her crimes are worse than Trump's because in my mind they're.
To me, it's like CNN saying they didn't have a dog in the. They didn't have an outcome that they wanted.
Obviously
of course
do.
they did. And same with Julian Assange. We commented on that multiple times. Where it's like,
yeah,
he
the
clearly
difference
isn't releasing
is,
anything.
Wait a minute. The difference is that CNN doesn't hack into into government entities.
He could have hacked Donald Trump and just taken it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You want those tax returns? Just take them.
Just go get them, unless they've hidden them or destroyed them.
I love how it seems like they think Donald Trump Jr. is really stupid because he's like, so if we do this, if we release the tax, it'll make our things look more credible. And then he goes on to explain like it won't look like it came from a pro-Russia source. Like he's talking to him like he's a 4-year-old who doesn't comprehend the implications of what they're gonna do.
I picture him as a George W. Bush helping George H.W. Bush. Like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go.
Babs told me to shoot him. I think he suffers from retardation.
But I think like you were saying, I think the people who really come off bad in the story is WikiLeaks. I think it just shows that they lied. So they said that they didn't care about the outcome. We all knew that they did. And then also,
now we have proof that they did.
Yeah, there's supposed to be a transparency website, and it's just like, well, do you want to give me what we want to put out there? No, well, I guess I won't get it.
Well,
then.
how can you claim to fight authority?
Yeah, I'm sure the U.S. government didn't want all of our contacts out there.
WikiLeaks kind of hurts their own cause here in this case because, like, you do have a guy who went to jail for WikiLeaks. Yeah. Like, you have a bunch of people.
You know how you don't pay that guy off? Come on.
You have a bunch of people that have broken the law to help WikiLeaks
because they believe in the ideology.
So now
it hurts their brand, man.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And it's evidence that Julian Assange is the piece of shit that I've always
also going to throw.
Everyone has their own evidence to why they think he's a piece of shit.
But it's going to throw a question mark on anything they release from now on.
Well, here's the thing
coming to elections.
Yeah, and I want to be clear about that. Also, is that they've never ever put anything out that wasn't proven true. So when it comes to their reliability rate, they're still very high. Now their integrity.
Yeah, well, if
like
people start questioning
down.
the reason why they're releasing certain stuff, they're going to start looking for.
They're not releasing the
motive.
full truth. They're just. But again, everything they've released is true. Like they've never put something out that was fake news or put out some sort of fake, false documents. Like they're all been verified.
Based on what has been verified. But they also contradict other things that have also been verified, like the fact that the Russians did hack into the DNC and 15.
We don't know that
15
for sure.
intelligence agencies says it, but WikiLeaks says no. So they must be right.
First off, it wasn't 15. It was only 3 that saw it. And second, you can't confirm it unless you have the actual. You have to have the hard drives to make sure that someone didn't hack in to make it look like.
Right. So, but
which
because,
I assume the government has done that.
Yeah, that'd be the Russian hard drives. You would have had to
how many times on the show have you cited that because Julian Assange told you that it wasn't, then it couldn't have been?
Yeah. Now that diminishes that because
absolutely
again, his integrity's gone away.
Right. So now we're back to we've got a guy who's proven to lie, and we have intelligence agencies.
If you're looking at the government, you're gonna be hard pressed to find someone who has been proven in a lie at some point. So if you're just trying to apply that to one side, I don't think that's gonna,
fine.
It's also becoming a recurring pattern of them trying to have meetings with people to get dirt on Hillary Clinton. Like it's almost shocking. And I'm sure the Clintons ran just as much of a
DNC met with the same
campaign.
Russian what's his name?
Yeah,
Donald
but
Trump
I mean,
Jr. met
they
with.
ran a very dirty campaign. Apparently, the more we learn about it,
it seems like they both ran
sides.
a very, very dirty campaign all the way
very
through
dirty.
from the beginning of the primaries through
Yeah.
through November of
The only one
last
that
year.
apparently they haven't found anything shady on actually is Donald Trump, and everyone else around him, and everyone in the other
now,
campaign.
interestingly enough, too, and I don't have enough on this to make it its own story, but I saw last night that the Flynn team has now cut off communication with the White House, which at least the way it was being talked about, was making the White House a little bit nervous because
And that's how it's talked about.
That's
I don't
how
think
it's
that's
talked
actually
about.
what it is. I think it just means that he's going
There are a lot of reports about
Julian
more
Assange didn't say it,
nervous
so I don't
chatter
know
with
if I would
Kushner
take
and
it.
stuff.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of talk recently about Kushner being arrested.
Yeah.
But
to be fair, they say that every week. They're like, oh, man, they're all on their tiptoes. It's coming down.
Well, it seems like, if anything, a lot of people around Trump are going to get arrested, but it seems like he might be
I
safe.
can't wait until the
Michael
episode.
Flynn.
I can't wait until the episode where Mitch has to come on and be like, "I owe you all an apology."
We'll see, man. If that day
President
comes,
Pence.
I really do not think that will ever happen. Again, like we've been talking about it for.
Is that because you don't apologize for anything?
No, I'd
Because he's too
apologize.
stubborn.
But no, when I'm wrong, I'll say it. But in this case, again, we've
I
said.
don't know about that.
Yeah,
Let's check the records.
The record shows. I'm batting 1,000 here.
The record shows.
I like
the batting
listen to the
average.
record.
The batting average keeps going up. It started at 9, and then it was
I
at
keep
like
getting better. Yeah.
900.
He keeps getting drunk
I'm
during
at
the
90.
episode.
Now
And he's
it's
like, "Let the
1,000.
record show."
Let it
I've
show.
never actually listened to the
Press
show.
it.
And
Records
let
at
the
like
record also
.99 right
show
now.
I don't know how to play baseball.
Damn it. No. But like I said, when it comes to shit, what were we on? We were on.
Who cares? Michael Flynn.
Michael Flynn. Yeah, I think Michael Flynn is going to be caught. It was the first one I said was going to be caught because, and again, it has to do with all of his money laundering. Same with Manafort. So to me, whenever it says that they stopped communicating, that's the first thing you do if you're going to make a plea deal. So I think that yes, I think he's going to be making a plea deal. But I just think it has something to do with what he did wrong. I don't think it has anything to do with anyone else.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait and see what he gives. If he has, I mean, obviously the Mueller team is wanting him to give up.
Yeah,
a bigger fish.
that's what he wants.
Well, and that's what they want from Manafort as
Which
well.
kind of irritates me too with that because I feel like the Comey's investigation should be to get to the truth, and
Mueller.
more often than not, Mueller, Comey Mueller, but I feel like more often than not, Mueller's trying to get Donald Trump. Like it's not about did anything actually
Mueller
happen.
hasn't said anything.
I mean, if he,
who can
but
I
he could
screw?
legitimately believe Donald Trump did something illegal.
That's
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a
Absolutely.
completely bullshit, biased, right-wing feeling. You have no reason to feel that way.
Yeah.
Mueller has said nothing. No one around
Right.
Mueller
He
has
has
said
been the
anything.
quiet man
They
all
brought
year.
a couple
But
of
just his
indictments.
moves.
He's been the
and
most
you
written
think
about, but
that
yes.
it's a witch hunt? Why?
Just his moves. Like I said, it doesn't look like he's investigating things that had to do with Russia, more just people that were involved with the campaign and what they did wrong, which is important. But again, it doesn't look like that wasn't what you were supposed to do. You were supposed to go in and look for Russian collusion. And if you can't find that, but then you drop the hammer on everyone else.
Well, I'm thinking, also, if that could, like, it might be easier to get to Russian collusion through U.S., like,
And then
you
try
can't
to
go
do-
through a foreign, country.
Yeah.
It might be easier to go through the Americans that were,
It's
talking to
really,
those
yeah, but
people.
it's really hard because, again,
Right.
collusion
Keep
has
in
to be
mind that-
within our system.
Keep in mind
And
that
these
all
guys-
of these people that have been called into question have financial ties with Russia
Yeah.
and were part of the campaign. So there is
Yeah.
reason to look at
There's
them.
tons of DNC
so it's
people
only
have ties to
collusion-
Russia
That's
and are part of
fine.
the campaign.
Investigate them.
Yeah, that's fine.
You're
That's
never
fine.
going to hear
Is it
me
only collusion
say
when it's
anything
inside the
different.
country?
Yeah, a collusion is that a foreign entity. First off, collusion is only between within the system. So if the DNC worked with, basically what the DNC did with those guys was collusion because they
So
worked
it's just
together.
treason when you do it with a foreign
Well,
government?
it can't be treason because again, you have to be
Because
at
there's
war.
some bullshit definitions.
Yeah, you have to be.
we haven't been at war since
Yeah, you have to be
the
at
president
war,
gained.
and then you have to help the enemy. So if the enemy helps you, it's not treason. But if you help the enemy, then it is treason. It gets complicated. So yeah, the most
we
they
haven't
can-
written a specific law against what just happened.
Yeah, but again, like I said, if it looks like they were trying to hack the election with, like actively were trying to change votes to help him with Donald Trump's help or at least knowledge and everything like that, then it would be illegal. I don't know what the exact term would be, but
Right.
yeah, because you're not going to get collusion, you're not going to get treason. Yeah, but you can get something. That's what he's supposed to be looking for.
The other problem is it's going to take another 2 years before we get any results from this. So it's just going to be constant speculation every time they make a move and don't say a word about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got more indictments lined up.
And
so.
we'll see how that plays too, because like initially, like back before the world turned fucking upside down, and things were easy to predict, I would have said that having a constant scandal through an entire term would not be a good thing going into re-election. But I don't know, because this one could be looked at the way that Mitch looks at it as bullshit. So
the media is telling us one thing. It's like all the time during the campaign when they'd be like, "What are you talking about? I just saw on CNN they said that Hillary's got up by 12 points. I'm like, yeah, but don't listen to them.
Yeah, but if you want to like the more Nate Silvery people, they were.
But I honestly,
I looked at every single poll coming out, and then I looked at who polled it, and then I would read the poll, and it was like, oh, the New York Times went to the art section of this college and asked 60 people.
Well, if you ask 60 people in New York, you're going to get Democratic answers.
Exactly. So, I don't know how they're going to feel about that. But
I think it would be very naive, though, to think the polls will always be wrong.
Because
they were wrong.
They're good indicators, I just didn't, you have to look into your own shit. Like I said, I was giving Donald Trump 3% margin just by the people I didn't think were going to answer that they wanted to show support for him. And I factored that into it. And that's what pushed over Wisconsin and Michigan in my model.
The problem with that, though, is I think when it comes to, because we were looking at like the midterms next year, I was listening to somebody have a conversation the other day, and they were talking about, they were trying to use that same equation that like for Congress, well, you have to add 3% of
and
people.
It's not scientific. That was just me saying it.
But it's also, it's a lot easier to apply that to a Trump than a congressman. Yeah. Like, because
Trump
different.
just says what he says, but congressmen are sleazy and they don't say what they mean. And
so
we all know that.
I don't think you can add that 3% margin of error for Congress. So if Congress doesn't do anything and the polls say that Congress may flip,
I would think that
the polls, I don't know.
Still look into it, but I would think they're much more, reliable than the ones on Trump.
I would think so too.
Yeah. But anyway,
speaking of Trump saying what he says, I think that's our next
who has that story? I don't have that pulled up, but I think we can probably just sum up. What was the Time story, or the Time magazine story?
Well, I mean, Trump apparently said that he turned down Time's Man of the Year.
But he was never.
Well, they came out and said that they. I don't know. There's
no way they'd ever give it to him.
Yeah. On Friday night, Donald Trump proclaimed that he would probably be Time's Person of the Year of 2007, except that he didn't really want the honor. He said, quote, Time magazine called me to say that I was probably going to be named man in parentheses, Person of the Year, but like last year, but I would have to agree to an interview and a major photo shoot. I said probably is no good and took a pass. Thanks anyway.
Not good.
That statement wasn't strictly speaking true. The president is incorrect in how we choose a Person of the Year, a Time spokeswoman said in a statement. Time does not comment on our choice until publication, which is December 6th. And then people took some shots at Trump's fake Time.
Yeah. I'll say
cover.
this. I'll say this about it.
He wants it.
Well, going off of the previous people that they choose, it would make sense for him to get it. It's about people who made the most change and bucked the system.
Kim Jong-un is in running. There's a lot of like people. Colin Kaepernick is in the running. It's just people who are mentioned the most.
Yeah. So it would make total sense for him to be in the running. I don't think they'd ever give it to him. I think if it landed on him, he'd be like,
Yeah, but it's also just like, why did you come out and say that? Like, it just seems to me you're like lying about nothing that you don't need to lie about. What do you gain from this?
That's what he loves to do. He lies about stupid shit.
Please get him under oath on that. Did they really offer it?
Right. And did they offer it to him last year, like they said, or like he said? Oh, they offered me last year, and I said no.
Yeah.
No, that was like, I thought that was the list of top 100 people.
He also commenting on. He shits on that in this article because he calls it
because he wasn't on it.
Yeah, the Time magazine list of 100 most influential people is a joke and a stunt of a magazine that will, like Newsweek, soon be dead.
Yeah.
Bad list. I love how those two little words, so sad.
Fuck you.
Bad list.
Bad list.
Is that like Santa Claus?
Yeah. Again, like I said, if you go off of previous metrics that they've used, he clearly should be on it. But if they don't want to publish it, they don't fucking have to. It's their magazine.
Yeah, right. I don't think anybody expects him to get it.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't.
It's not gonna they're gonna give it to like Tracy Atkins or some shit like that. Like they'll do like dumb shit.
Yeah, and last year I guess Trump feels because they gave it to Angela Merkel last year, and Trump was really stung about that because he tweeted like they picked the person who was ruining Germany.
Yeah, she's going down now.
She just got reelected.
You think so?
Yeah, I know, but she has no coalition. Like, they got completely robbed from her.
Really?
So now she's just like a leaderless head figure. You know?
Like Trump. So when it applies, all right, well, that's enough Time magazine. We'll go into this we'll close out the show with because the universe smiles upon me, dumb fucks in
Smile on your
Alabama
hockey team.
aren't just trying to put Roy Moore into the fucking Senate. They're also beating the shit out of each other at malls on Thanksgiving.
Heck yeah.
So let's get into this little quick article from Ashley May at USA Today. Thanksgiving night. Fights shut down Alabama mall. Shoe reportedly hit baby. Let me stop there for a second.
Reportedly.
Only in Alabama, hashtag Alabama with those eyes that I just made. Only in Alabama is the shoe reportedly hitting the baby. Like, did it hit the baby or did it not? It's like
they can't afford security cameras in Alabama
like
malls.
that shoe may or may not have sought out that baby, but I don't know. That baby looks like a future point guard. I think he just jumped up and stopped it right with his face right there. Alley-oop? Nope.
The reporters in Alabama was like, well, I could check the security tape. The word allegedly is a lot quicker, guys.
Just throw that in there.
So
there were a lot of shoes flying around.
There were a lot of shoes flying.
There were a lot of babies getting hit with a lot of things.
I don't know how your
upsets me is they don't go into the type of shoe. Was it a flip flop? Because that's not really going to hurt a baby.
Was it a big
slipper? You know,
steel toe boot. That might be a little different.
So about a dozen officers were called to River Chase Galleria in Birmingham, Alabama, Thursday because of several fights reported in the mall. WBRC Fox 6 News reports. Officials found at least one fight after 11 p.m. on the mall's second floor. AL.com reports. Fight also surfaced on social media. Hoover police officers separated two girls who were fighting and treated them for minor injuries, according to a statement. The fight didn't start because of holiday sales, police said. Local Fox News producer Stephanie Means said on Facebook a witness told her someone threw a shoe over a railing, hitting a baby.
That would start the fight, yeah.
Police made no arrests.
That fucking baby. What are you doing?
Someone got away with that crime, guys.
The mall was setting. Allegedly hit the baby.
Yeah, we
do it in that
cool
accent you did earlier. Finish reading in that awesome voice.
The mall was set to close at midnight, but instead shut down at 11:20 because of the fight. An hour earlier, police received reports of gunfire outside the mall, but found no evidence.
Well,
of
it
shots
is Alabama.
Fired. Hoover police said they've increased security at the mall through the holiday season.
That's just one guy lying. He's like, someone's shooting off a gun. Someone's throwing shoes at babies.
Allegedly.
This wasn't. There were fights or there were arrests all over, right?
Oh, there was
Black
lots
Friday.
of fights.
I know it happened here at the Galleria.
Yep.
But I
so there's
saw
like a
news
12-minute
stories.
montage of just people throwing down in fisticuffs.
Somebody said that they weren't going to elect a pedophile, and somebody started throwing shoes. Like, what do you mean? This is Alabama. We fuck cousins here. So
and this is why you lose the South.
Yeah, I don't know what. I'm not New York. This one's for you.
They're smelling their own fire, sipping their tea. Yeah,
that's all right. They're sitting down there listening to Alex Jones in between episodes of this anyway. So,
hope not. Damn.
Yeah. So, anyway, I think on that note, instead of doing a local St. Louis story every week, I might just find that
local Alabama.
I have a website where I can watch local news channels from every state, so I might just sit and keep Alabama on.
Turn on like the Channel 5.
Like somebody's bound to do something. If you're not electing a pedophile, there's something going on. So yeah, you did that. You did that, Roy Moore supporters.
Yep.
So, on that note,
what happens.
Thank you both for being on the show. Thank
Yay.
you also, Frank, for providing the majority of those articles. We
You're welcome.
set up the studio this week, and
the voice got a lot cooler there.
It's like 10 o'clock last night before I realized that I don't have a solid plan for tomorrow's show. So I'm glad we got to do that. Thank you for Dan. Friend of the show, Dan, for
thank you for me
for you.
Thank you for being
coining the term the DAP, which we finally used.
Yes,
all our dappers out there.
It's coming to America.
Brandon's editing in audience applause. At the
next time we'll talk. Next time we'll have to do a segment on your podcast, all that, which is a show about.
It's a Keenan and Kel cast.
It's the Keenan and Kel cast. It's not real, but
But with your support.
But I'm pretty sure Bill Cummins
join me on my Patreon.
Right? Is Bill Cummins your
Bill Cummins? Yep.
Last week I told you about a podcast, Time Suck, but I did not say Dan Cummins' name right. I said Bill Cummins for some reason. So I think that's
even though you know Dan Cummins, you're just like, I'll give Bill credit this time.
So
the lesser known Cummins.
The lesser known Cummins, the evil twin. All right, so on that note, listen to Time Suck as well as subscribe to TDAP. New episodes are up weekly on Google Play and iTunes. Yeah, I think that pretty much does it. So on that note, here it is, your alternative fact of the week. Thanks.
Alabama man! Alabama man! He's quick, he's strong, he's active! You can take Alabama man to the bowling alley where he drinks heavily and chews tobacco.
Wow, he can bowl.
He can bowl, he can drink some more. Alabama man! When wife asks him where he's been, just use the action button and Alabama man busts her lip open.
Shut up, bitch! Wow. I want to be just like Alabama man.